All right, so we are looking at marketing and specifically the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion. And in this video, we are going to be talking about specifically place, the P that is place, and what marketing decisions are made within this section. So for place, most people, when they hear place, they think of a physical location. They want to know the address of where they're going to sell their items. And while that is something that comes into it, we tend to look at place first from a more broad area. And what we call this are channels of distribution. Okay, so again, place has that nice P, but really what we're talking about here is what we call a channel of distribution. So what is that? A channel of distribution is the paths of ownership that a good follows as they pass from a producer to a consumer. So for place, for specifically channels of distribution, these are specific to goods. Okay, generally services are not so much looking at this, although we will see some examples. But paths of ownership, okay, are talking about how that good gets from whoever started making it to the customer, and if that owner is going to change along the way. So there are 3 main types, what we call direct, indirect, and specialty, and we're going to talk about each of those in more detail. So the direct channel, okay, as the word implies, it's direct. So in this case, the producer sells directly to the customer. Okay, almost all services are direct because you can't really transfer ownership of a service. So it's fairly determined ahead of time that that's what that's going to be. But for products, if we're thinking about products, basically whoever made the product, grew the product from the beginning, is the one that is selling it to the customers. Okay, and again, we're talking about change of ownership once the product is in its final stage. Okay, so if a farmer grows wheat and then it goes to a mill to be ground and then it turns into flour and then it gets sold to a bakery who turns it into bread, that's not multiple ownership. It's once it's the bread, what happens to it. Okay, once it's physically the bread, does it get sold from the person that bakes it to the customer? And in this case, it should if it's a direct channel. So, example, farmers grew their apples and they sell it at a farmer's market where they hand it right to a customer. Okay, as I mentioned, the bakery bakes the bread and sells it right to their customer. Okay, it can be other big manufacturers. Apple manufactures their products and then they sell them in their own stores that are owned by them. So again, the product can move. It's manufactured in one company and then in one country and moves to another country, but the ownership doesn't change. It's owned by Apple Corporation the whole time. Okay, whereas an indirect, if you look at the word, not direct channel, is when a product or a producer, the person that made the product, sells it to somebody else, what we call an intermediary. Okay, the most common one is to a retailer, a big store that sells lots of different companies' products. Okay, but it could have a few other ones along the way. There's such things as wholesalers, importers, some other ones along the way. So it could have a few stops of ownership as it goes. Okay, but the important thing, it's indirect if the person that made the final product is not selling it directly to the customers. Okay, as I mentioned, the concept of a retailer, this is a business that sells directly to customers. Okay, so Zayre's, Best Buy, basically most of the companies that you know because you interact with them as a customer are going to be what we call retailers. A wholesaler is a company that buys large quantities of a product and then sells them in smaller quantities to retailers. So for example, a lot of farmers will sell their products to what's called the food terminal in Toronto. So this is a wholesaler that buys lots and lots of apples and lots of carrots. And then they, having, all of these products from all of these different farmers, sort them out and sell the carrots that are needed to Zayre's, or sell the apples that are needed to Sobeys. Okay, and so their job is to get those big quantities in and then sell them out to retailers, not to customers. Okay, so it's important to note that every time an ownership changes, the cost of a product is going to go up. Okay, or if the end product is the same price, then somebody is losing money along the way, generally the producer. Okay, so if we think, for example, if a farmer can sell his apple directly to a customer, all the money that the customer pays, a $2 price, goes to the farmer. However, if he sells his apple to Zayres and then Zayres has to sell it to the customer, okay, if Zayres is going to sell it to the customer for $2 as well, Zayres needs to make some money because they need to pay their employees and they need to pay shipping. So the farmer may only get $1 for each apple. So choosing an indirect channel for your business, you have to realize that you are likely going to be getting less money for that product than if you sell it to a customer. However, if you think about it, you're going to be doing a lot less work. Okay, if you're able to just sell all your products to somebody else, they're going to market them, they're going to display them, they're going to hire people to run the cash and the checkout. And it often is going to make your product much more available to customers if they have lots of stores, as opposed to you having to set up a store and pay employees and customers having to come to you or make deliveries. Okay, so that's why we often see, farmers markets, you can get products for a little bit cheaper because you're buying directly from the farmer and you're not paying for that middle person. Okay, another example would be when Apple sells its phones at Best Buy instead of at its stores. So Apple products are very big on making sure that that end price to the customer is the same everywhere. But what that means is the ones that are sold through these other companies, Apple themselves is getting less money for. All right, so that's our indirect channel. However, it's important to note that there are some times where products do not end up getting to customer through retailers. So generally with an indirect channel, we see either the producer sell right to the retailer, Apple sells to Best Buy, and then it gets to the customer. Or we see the farmers sell to the wholesaler, sell to the retailer, Zayres, and then it gets to the customer. So generally, when we think indirect, we think about retailers, okay? However, sometimes that's not the case, and that's where this last category comes in, which is a specialty channel. So it's important to note, this is an indirect channel, okay? Specialty channels do not go right from producer to customer because that would be direct. Okay. However, it's an indirect channel that doesn't use a retailer. Okay. So some examples of this would be vending machines. Okay. Again, Pepsi makes a product, it sells it to a company that has a vending machine, so it's indirect, it doesn't go right to the customer, and then it gets sold to the customer, but there isn't a retail location that does it. It's a different one, so it's specialty. This also happens with shopping channels on TV where you can call in, telemarketers that call and sell you things, people that come door to door and sell. Doesn't happen as often anymore, but it does still happen. Okay, or buying something online, okay, or from a catalog. Okay, so these are all ways that you can interact with brands, okay, but you're not using a retail location. And it is important to note that even if you're buying online from the company's website, there is a transfer of ownership generally because the company is not going to be the one that delivers it to your door. Okay, so that's kind of where we're thinking at there. So let's take a look. There are some businesses when you think about your products, you have to decide how you're going to sell them, and you have to think of the advantages of each of those. So I've touched on them briefly. What makes direct, better? You're right to the customer. You get to keep all the money. You also get to make all the decisions about that customer experience. However, indirect sounds really appealing when you're first starting out, getting your product in multiple different stores. Well, you don't always have to choose just one. So if we look at Tim Hortons, we know that you can go to a Tim Hortons and you can buy their coffee and you can buy their donuts freshly made, okay? And this would be considered direct, okay? They're baked in the store and sold right to their customers. The coffee is brewed in the stores and it's sold right to customers. This is a direct channel. Okay, lots of Tim Hortons all over Canada. However, there are other products like their coffee grinds that they sell not just in the store, but they also sell in grocery stores. So that would see both a direct and an indirect channel for a product. So it doesn't always have to be a one or the other. There's lots of businesses who some of their products are one, some of them are another, or like Tim Hortons where this one product can be both. All right, so just to recap, okay, we're focused on those channels of distribution, how our products are getting from the producer to the customer. And we've gone through those three main types: direct, indirect, and specialty. Thank you so much for watching Trending Sports News on YouTube. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to find out about breaking and trending sports news items. We post videos from all genres of sports, so please make sure to join our family to hear about the latest sports news. If you've joined us already, thank you so much. We love that you're here. Please feel free to leave comments and let us know what you're thinking. And if you haven't, hit that subscribe button, that one right there.